In a lot of Christian spaces, there's an unspoken rule. If you question the Bible, you're questioning God. And if you're questioning God, you just might not belong here. I mean, think about it. Have you ever asked a Bible question and felt the room tighten? I mean, you asked not because you're trying to mock anyone, just because you were curious. And then maybe you were told something like, don't lean on your own understanding. As if your mind is the enemy. So let me say this very clearly before I start. This video is not about mocking Scripture. It is about a healthier way to relate to it. Is it okay to question the Bible? Truth be told, not all questions are treated the same. And if you're learning how to live with questions instead of silencing them, then this channel is for you. Anyway, churches generally encourage a certain kind of questioning. Questions like, what does this verse mean? Or what's going on in the background of the text? Those questions are about information. Those are safe questions. But when the question becomes something else, something like, should I believe this? Or would God really want this? Yeah, that's when the reaction starts to change. Because what most people call questioning is actually three very different things, and churches often only tolerate two of them. Think of questioning like a ladder. Level 1 is clarifying. What does this mean? We're talking about translation or genre or context here. Level 2 is wrestling. How does this fit with what I know about God, reality, and life itself? Or how does this even fit with my life? Level 3, though, moves right into dissent, as you end up saying things like, I don't think this reflects God's will at all, or even God's character. And it's that last one that is taboo. And if this feels familiar, then it's because a lot of thoughtful Christians are quietly going through the same thing. Because you see, many Christians were trained in a faith that permits only a certain level of uncertainty. It never allows for core disagreement. And that's really problematic if you want to grow spiritually, because sometimes the most honest spiritual sentence when reading the biblical text is to say, I just don't think that's true. Because you see, spiritual maturation, after a certain point, requires all three levels of questioning. And if your faith never allowed you that third step, what you learned wasn't maturity, it was obedience training. The Bible is full of people who question God out loud, and that's the point. The Psalms ask, how long, or where are you? And that's not rebellion, that's just refusing to lie about the pain. Job refuses tidy answers and argues his case. The prophets challenge the religious system from inside the tradition. Even Thomas refuses to pretend just to keep the peace. So if questioning disqualifies you from faith, Scripture itself then disqualifies many of the people that it identifies as heroes, which means questioning does not put you outside of the tradition. It puts you right smack in the middle of it. So why does an honest question feel so dangerous? Well, because for many Christians, the Bible isn't just a book, it is a badge of belonging. If you question a verse, you risk being labeled as a liberal, or backslider, or even deceived. That social threat trains your nervous system to treat curiosity like danger. And once you see that, though, then the deeper issue starts to come right into focus, because you see that those clarifying questions are manageable by the system, but dissenting questions are not, because they actively relocate authority. They move power away from the gatekeepers toward conscience, toward discernment, toward moral responsibility. So if you learned to fear your questions, that wasn't God. That was a system shaping you in order to protect itself. Let's test this on one of the most disturbing stories in the Bible. To be clear, this is an ethical and theological reflection. It is not an endorsement of violence in any way whatsoever. But in the story where Abraham is told to offer his son Isaac, many were taught that the point is simple. God commanded it, Abraham obeyed, and that is faith. But if faith means you must be willing to hurt your child because you think God commanded it, then faith can justify anything. Nothing is off the table at that point. And that's why discernment matters, because not every God told me is actually God. So it's okay if you read that story and you feel sick to your stomach and you say, no, I don't believe that God would have us harm our children. And that's not only a good thing to react to it that way, it's also faithful. Indeed, the most faithful response to the Bible isn't obedience, it's discernment. You can treat Scripture as a witness to spiritual wrestling without treating every portrait of God as accurate. At this point, a lot of people panic. If we allow dissent, if we allow people just to say, I don't think this reflects the will of God at all, then do we lose the Bible entirely? Really difficult texts are everywhere. Violence, slavery, the treatment of women, portrayals of same-sex acts, contradictions. And most people get trapped between two options. Defend the indefensible until your conscience goes numb, or walk away from everything. But losing the Bible isn't the only alternative to losing your conscience. There is a third way, and it is this. Stop treating the Bible like a magic rule book that you must protect at all costs, and start approaching it like a library of witnesses. Witnesses with their various voices, histories, arguments, and prayers. Witnesses reaching toward God. When a passage troubles you, you don't have to shut down your conscience. Because the real test of a faithful reading isn't whether you can rationally defend the text. It's what the text produces within you. So here's something that can help. Ask these 4 simple questions. Number 1, what kind of text is this? Is it a poem? Is it law? Is it an apocalypse? Right? Number 2, what's the historical world behind the text? Number 3, what picture of God is being assumed in the text? And then this one is the most important. Number 4, what kind of fruit does this reading produce in life? Does it make you more truthful, more compassionate, and more free to love? Or does it make you more fearful, more willing to dehumanize, more eager to control? Remember, when you read sacred text, you read while being enveloped by grace. And that means you have permission to read it honestly with how you feel in your heart. Yes, you have permission to be honest with God about where you're at. God can handle your very real thoughts about things. You have permission to learn how those texts work. Poetry isn't chemistry. Apocalypse isn't the newspaper. So take note. Take note as you listen to others as they guide you in what they would have you believe. Because if your interpretation makes you consistently less compassionate and more cruel, or more willing to do harm, that is not holiness. That is not spiritual formation. That is deformation. When you allow yourself to read the Bible honestly, what you gain is integrity. You stop splitting yourself in two, where you have a public certainty and private anxiety living side by side. In other words, you just stop pretending. A faith that cannot survive honest questions isn't faith. It's fear with Bible verses. So before I go, let me leave you with a couple of questions. First, what biblical text have you been afraid to disagree with because you thought it might cost you God? And second, what would it look like if you read that text with an honest courage instead of fear? And if you want, please share your thoughts in the comments. I do read them. And if you're rebuilding a more honest way of reading Scripture, I'd love to have you stay connected. On this channel, we keep working through how to read Scripture, follow Jesus, and live with integrity when certainty no longer works. So like, comment, subscribe. I am Bo McGuffey with the Evolving Christian Faith Network. Until next time, peace.